Do you feel as though you had to sacrifice anything to stay in dance? Everything.
The Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater is one of the most important contemporary dance companies in the world.
People were just, oh my God, they'd never seen anything like it.
Choreographers start with an empty space, a body or two, and we say, carve this space. I love creating something where there was nothing before.
I was born in the Depression, 1931. Rural country, tough times.
When I was 14, I discovered the theater.
And it touched something in me, but there was no bodyguard.
Alvin entertained my dreams that a black boy could actually dance.
Being able to say through the choreography, I am, it transcends dance.
I had my own ideas.
Not just to do a step, but to feel something.
He was working at a feverish pitch, totally immersed.
People say, why is he doing that now? If you're a black anything in this country, people want to put you into a bag.
This is what he took up as his crusade. Alvin's protest was on the stage.
And I want to feel all the anger, the sense of cursing at the outside room.
I wanted to do the kind of dance that could be done for the man on the streets, the people, that it was part of their culture.
And that it was universal.
Yeah, I don't. All right, it's fine. Hi, Jamila.
Hi.
Can I just start off saying how much I enjoyed your documentary?
Thank you.
You're very welcome. There's a thing that that got successfully put across, which is just this sort of the inner beautiful not message. How am I trying to put it? But this vision, maybe a vision is a good way that Alvin Ailey had. And it's like, I think it cost him everything.
Yeah.
You know, and I know even in the notes as the film is described, or as he is described in the press materials, that, he was so enigmatic, and he still remains on some level enigmatic, but you guess you turn to the work, right, for the answers that ultimately perhaps, or those who knew him best.
Yeah, I think it's always an interesting question with documentary portraits and about artists. I mean, we value them because the work that they make. And I think for us setting out, we were very interested in exploring a kind of story of becoming and working to ensure that you were getting to know somebody and getting to know their conflict, but what we learned had to be about the artistic journey as well, kind of at every point. And I think that's a subjective choice, obviously, but for me, I want to know about like the work and how the work gets made and what inspires the work. I want to know something about the person. But yeah, I think the enigma at the center of that was a surprise, even insofar as he remained elusive to even his closest collaborators. The interview we did with Mazazumi Chaya was one of the last ones we did. And, when he shared that idea of, I'd worked with him for all these years and he invited me one time to his apartment and I didn't want to go. There's an interesting question there about he had held people at bay, and then eventually that kind of people wanted to keep him there as well.
Why do you suppose that is?
I don't know. I mean, I think that the requirements of public life were enormous. And I think to protect himself in some way, he needed that private space where he could close the door, and he wasn't responsible for anything or anyone anymore. And then I think the need to see people as iconic figures. I don't know, I think it's, I want people to stay, we want people to stay on their pedestals. It's easier that way, I think, to see people as kind of perfect icons than to deal with the messiness of their lives.
That's obviously very true. Yeah, where there's a dichotomy where we want to understand what makes our heroes tick. On the other hand, we also expect them to be flawless. I mean, these are generalizations, but they kind of do make sense. And and then there's that very famous saying, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's like, don't get to know your heroes, or they'll inevitably disappoint you, because I totally understand that. But since we're on this subject, do you feel, how do you feel like you learned about Alvin Ailey? I mean,
I think it's what you said, to start the conversation, this idea of like the vision that he had and the sacrifices he was willing to make, and the idea that he was willing to sort of dedicate it all, to this one,
sacrifice.
And
everything.
I think, it's fascinating to find somebody who, in the end, maybe it seems that his value is in the work that he does, and maybe only there.
Yeah, we shouldn't romanticize that. I mean, he gave his life to this. I mean, and his entire life, like he died,
right.
In a way, you could argue as a result of his dedication to how he chose to forge through it. But we shouldn't romanticize it. On the other hand, look what he did.
Yeah,
he made all these incredibly beautiful pieces. I mean,
yeah, it's interesting to think about that from today's perspective, and I think there's questions around that. Like, we don't want to make a martyr of him, and at the same time,
right,
it's like the gratitude to an individual who really did have a kind of selflessness at the center, where he was always interested in something bigger and greater than himself. And I feel like, that's a value that's missing today, maybe. So, there's something in that, but I don't think the journey had to be quite as lonely. And I think that's a lesson that we can take too,
Right. Yeah. It seemed that was sort of course, the melancholy note in the film. It's called Ailey. It's coming out July 23rd, exclusively in New York City, where Alvin Ailey's dance company was born and founded, etc. And then it will have a national expansion thereafter. I was lucky enough. I did see I did see some performance at some point of his, and I got to see a live performance of Revelations, and it was mind-blowing experience.
Yeah.
Was he the first? So was he really the first African American with a national? I mean, presence,
a touring company like that. Yeah. So Catherine Dunham really precedes him in that way, but her dance work isn't considered truly like modern dance, because she was herself an anthropologist, and so a lot of her work is kind of a more kind of marriage of dance and the anthropology work that she was doing in Haiti in particular. So I think she's considered sort of pre-modern in that way. So yeah, of modern dance companies, his is kind of the first and certainly the largest of scale.
Right. So there's quite a few folks that owe an allegiance to him, and not necessarily even African American. I think he influenced the whole generation of modern dance choreographers, correct? And I guess the 80s and 90s, there just was an explosion of them, and I mean, I'm kind of riffing a little bit because I just had been for a snapshot. I was lucky. I was involved with someone who was working in the dance world, and so I just got to see a lot of dance for a few years,
Amazing.
and it was this really amazing time. Like Bill T. Jones and Mark Morris, all those guys.
Yeah.
Of that period, and. So I'm sure everybody wants to know, though. I can't recall. Do you have a dance background? Was that your
I
way
do
in?
not. Everybody wants to know that, and I don't have a dance background.
Can't you just make
all.
something up?
I know it would make the story, so much better if I auditioned for the Ailey company.
No. I'm sure it's equally as good.
I don't have a dance background. I appreciate the form. I discovered dance through Ailey. The Ailey company is the first dance company that I ever saw a live performance of.
Yeah, right.
And so they were my entryway into it. And I have friends who are choreographers, and and so I've continued to see dance since. But no, I wasn't. And so it was, part of the kind of great beauty and joy and fear of making this. The learning curve was steep.
The only reason I brought it up, I didn't jump to the conclusion. There was one line also in what I was reading which said that you and Rennie, there was some sort of language which was just made me question it, but it was and Rennie Harris, he is the framework is a new production by, right? That's Rennie. Correct?
Yes,
the new production that you shot in real time in current day, right? The latest production that was, which was just also was just for, there's one shot towards the end or one clip where they're finally doing this, and it's just like mind-boggling.
Oh yeah. Great set story. We filmed the kind of final run through in the room of the dance work, and that's when Miss Jameson came to see it. And that day, I think they ran it through twice, and so the first time they ran it through, our gaffer came out of the room and just was like weeping,
Wow.
like not a dance person. I mean, it's just that dance, when you get a chance to see it, and they will be restaging it this coming City Center opening in New York, and then it'll go on tour nationally, and it is just it's extraordinary. I mean, just so powerful. It is so devastating and beautiful. I mean, it really is just an amazing dance. But that day where it was like, yeah, this dance, we were all in tears, but when your gaffer comes out and he's like,
yeah, exactly.
Also moved, you're like, okay.
Well, it is a great opportunity to weigh into seeing. I mean, if somebody who I think, the beauty of a story like this is, you don't need to come in with some love of dance or be a dancer. I mean, this is just an artist's story, and a pioneer, and it's a great way to be introduced if you're not already a fan or familiar with modern dance. This is a great way to do it.
Yeah.
You brought up Judith Jameson, who I never saw in Alvin Ailey. I wasn't involved in watching dances that far back, but I did see her in Sophisticated Ladies on Broadway.
Oh, no kidding. Amazing.
Yeah, original cast. She was in the original cast with Gregory Hines and I forget who else it was. There was one other famous dancer involved in there. But so, yeah, I was wondering how that happened, because...
Yeah, she left the Ailey company for a short period of time, and because she got an opportunity to do work on Broadway, and I think the pay scale was probably a little bit better, and the stability of doing shows here, staying put for a while, and then she came back to helm the company.
Right. So those who don't know, Alvin Ailey died. How old was he?
He was, let's see, born in 31. I know, math. Born in 31 and died in 89. So 50.
He was born in 1931?
Yep, and died in 89. So 58, is that?
Okay.
Is my math right there? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right. 31. I didn't realize it was born. Okay. Amazing. Yeah, then she took over the company, right? That was...
Yes.
I didn't realize that. Okay, very good.
She is the emeritus artistic director of the company still. But she's wonderful. She's actively trying, the torch must be passed on. And I think Robert Battle, the current artistic director, is, leading with like great vision himself. And so she's a huge,
clearly, yeah, clearly. Well, was that must have been a formidable experience for you to be there that day. And she was there, as you said, right?
Yeah. And, it was really trying to think about, now she's watching this, dance interpretation of the life of, the man who effectively made her career in many ways. And then, she dedicated her life to carrying on his vision. And so, I knew where the dance was going. And then that sort of last moment with my my camera woman that day, and being like, like train her, to see how she would, react. And I think that moment where she, here's Rennie call out Mr. Ailey's name and there's no response. And her reaction to that was something that we were just, those are the moments where you say, like, I don't know how we're going to get there, but that has to be in the film.
How did she get a chance to see the film in its entirety? Since
she did, yeah, she saw it before we screened at Sundance, and I'm grateful that those showing your film to the people who are in your film is always a moment of there's a little bit of trepidation, let's say, and so,
to say the least, of course.
Yeah.
How could there not be?
So she likes it. I'm glad to report.
And so is it Sundance 2020?
Sundance 2021.
2020.
Virtual Sundance.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so how did Neon end up? How did that end up happening?
Oh my gosh! Like the greatest gift. I mean, we screened at Sundance, and they saw the film, and got on a call, and really, obviously they're an amazing distributor and do such great, put out such great films. But I also felt in that even in that early conversation, like they just really understood the film and him and what we were trying to do, and they seemed to like be in love with him, as much as we were. So it felt like, a good collaboration would come from that. So we're delighted.
Sure. Yeah. So, I think this, there must, I'm sure, I hope youth are pleased with how it came out. I mean, it must have been a very stressful,
yeah. I mean, we made the film during the pandemic. Our edit room opened the day New York City shut down. So I had to
I've been hearing the opposite. Yeah. A lot of the opposite experience where we just got in under the wire, just finished, or
no.
So
we were like,
you had to do
everything remotely, and scattered to the winds with my team. I didn't start working directly with my editor until like August, September. We would go wear masks and go into a space together and try to work together to because it's just that for me, that kind of nonverbal communication that happens in an edit room is so key, and just leaning in at the same time, or just like seeing a piece of footage, and being like, that we all have these kind of physical response, or we're bored. You're like, oh, the scene has got to go. Things that aren't working, and just the process of like picking up a phone or getting on a Zoom or sending a very long email. I mean, I speak a lot. I like talking, but I don't like being as verbal as I had to be during our edit. So that was tough. But it was also really beautiful because being able to live with this artist during that dark time, and having his kind of vision carry us, it just was, that felt like such a bomb, for the whole team.
Yeah. I think he would have liked this documentary.
That's the hope, that's the making a portrait like this. You sort of are
about somebody who's not alive. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're sitting with that ghost. I try, to think about, well, if he could come, the best is that he would maybe say, oh, there's things in there that I didn't really want people to know, but it's true. And so therefore,
but I respect you as an artist, Jamila Wignot, and your choices.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? That would be the best. That would be the best thing.
Well, An artist should understand that. Of course, it doesn't always happen that
Right.
way,
Exactly.
but you know, but yeah, and so it's going to be in New York City, as I mentioned, for exclusively starting July 23rd, Friday, July 23rd. So, and do you know where's it playing? We may have to have.
Yeah, it'll be at the Eleanor Bunham on the 23rd.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's just like
Right.
great place.
Yeah, so this is fantastic. I think a lot of young ballet dancers will come across and see it, I'm sure, because there's still a very close relationship between, right, ballet and modern dance.
And modern, increasingly so. And it's not in our film, but Alvin Ailey was one of the first modern dance choreographers to start thinking about like really incorporating ballet techniques and trying to find a marriage between the two. He was not interested in these arbitrary boundaries and boxes around dance, so it's like, why can't we just mix it up? And he really was sort of pushing for that.
Right. It so comes across. I mean, you see it in the various archival, all the archive that his whole approach seems to be very, like using those kind of ballet conventions in terms of.
Yeah, he's not a modern dance choreographer like a Graham or even Lester Horton, who he studied under, where he has a technique. He synthesizes, he's that great, like, I'm going to take a little bit from everything and then come up. It's more of a kind of style and an approach. So I think that's, I don't know. I think that's kind of lovely. He's like non-discriminating in his taste in that way,
Yeah. Well, I was grateful for the opportunity to see it, so I'll urge everybody to do so as well.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. It's called Ailey, and directed by, and it's Wignot. Is that
Wignot?
Wignot.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there was only a couple of ways to pronounce it, and I was. we met once before.
We did. I was on your show for Town Hall.
For Town
a
Hall.
Long time ago, 2013.
It's God. Is that true? 2013. I mean, I remember being. I think it was even potentially in your apartment.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it was. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm not in that apartment anymore, but yeah.
Well, so who is?
I know.
And their 2013 apartment anymore. I mean, anyway. Well, I'm glad to have caught up with you again on this project, and happy to do it again on the next one, and maybe we'll be back in person by then.
Yeah.
But so yeah, good luck with the theatrical. People will be seeing it in theaters in at the Film Center at Lincoln Center at the Eleanor Bunham. So congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.